if you are a creative person or you've been on WriterTube for longer than a minute, I'm sure you've heard of The Artist's Way, Julia Cameron's groundbreaking book that so many people have said changed their lives. It is called A Spiritual Path to Higher Creativity. It's a 12-week program that takes you on a journey. Let's just say that. It's definitely a journey, definitely a path. Some people love it, some people hate it, some people think it has too much work or too much spirituality or too much, whatever. All I know is that for me, I'm definitely one of the people who found the experience of reading this book, of going through all the steps included in this book, in the journey that it guides you on, absolutely life-changing. So the first time I read and worked through this book was about 4 years ago, and I'm going to share that experience today, why it was so powerful, and why I'm so grateful that this book found its way to me. To start with, we should give a little more of an intro of what The Artist's Way even is, what it includes. So if you can see my well-loved copy here, I put washi tape tabs to note each of the weeks. So each week has reading material that guides you through different steps of the journey. So like week 1 is recovering a sense of safety. Week 8, recovering a sense of strength. Let's pick another one. Week 11, recovering a sense of autonomy. So each week has a different theme to it. There's reading, there are specific prompts that you can go through in a journal for each of the weeks, but the main thing that you're doing during the 12 weeks that you go through this program is you're committing to writing morning pages, well I should say not writing morning pages, doing morning pages, and an artist date. So morning pages are 3 pages of long form stream of consciousness, just to get it out of your brain as quickly as possible, writing first thing in the morning. And an artist date is something that you do to nurture your inner artist, inner child. That can look like a lot of different things, depending on the person, depending on what's available to you. But yeah, those are the basic core tenets of the book, of the journey. So the first time that I read The Artist's Way was in January of 2021. At that point, I had published 2 self-help / nonfiction books about relationships. Really no solid plans to write any fiction. I had made sort of a half-hearted attempt at NaNoWriMo the previous year, but very quickly petered out because that November was a very busy month and it was the first thing to go in all the busyness. But yeah, the project that I started during that time, I had very much just pushed it to the side and was not thinking about it at all. That project has since become Pride, Prejudice, and Turkish Delight, which was my first work of fiction, but that's a story for another day. So for me, definitely the most powerful part of the Artist's Way process was the morning pages, the time spent every morning to just write in the journal. And Julia Cameron really makes it clear in the book that like these can be especially challenging for writers because we want to write them. We want to write something that's going to, you know, what are we thinking? Like someone's going to find this someday and read it and publish it and it's going to be the next. No, it's not that. It's just about dumping the garbage that's in your mind onto the paper. So all the stuff that has accumulated from the day before, from the night before, from whenever, you're just getting it all out onto the page. It's a practice of learning to silence the inner critic, because there's an inner critic as you're writing your morning pages, as you're doing your morning pages, that's saying this is a stupid thought, nobody cares about this, but you're pushing through it and you're doing it anyway. So I very much see the morning pages as like it's a prescription, like take 3 pages and just do it, just push through, just do it. So lately I have admittedly been just doing 1 page on the days that I actually do my morning pages. I'd like to get back to the 3-page commitment because I do find that when you have that little extra commitment, that little extra push, there's so much more that comes out. So in 1 page, you know, I can sort of brain dump like what's bothering me, what's on my mind for my upcoming day. But I know if I push through and I do 2 more pages, there's probably going to be something deeper that's going to get uncovered. It's going to get, just simply by being named and expressed onto the page, it's going to be relieved. So while there are some helpful ideas that might come up while you're writing the pages, that's not really what they're for. They're just for getting everything out. And she even has specific instructions in there that you should not go back and read them, and you certainly shouldn't show them to someone else, because that is a great way to self-sabotage. And you say, hey, look at this brilliant thought that I had, and then somebody picks up your journal, your morning pages notebook, and sees in there that you've been writing like, anyway, I don't know what to say now, so I'm just going to blah, blah, blah. And you know, Because stream of consciousness, it's very likely that you will be writing something like that. I write anyway so many times, like anyway, period, move on to the next thing. So keeping them to yourself and kind of even keeping them from yourself, so you're not going back and looking at them and judging them, but you're just getting the pages done and then going about your business, going about the rest of your life. The artist dates were also fun. I found this a little easier the first time I read the book because I read it when we lived in Michigan still, and I tended to spend more time by myself out and about. So we're living in Turkey at the moment, and I don't really feel comfortable driving here as much. So when I read it again while living here, it's a little trickier for me to, just go out and have an adventure on my own. But the first time I read the book, I was doing things like going to the movie theater by myself or going on a long walk in a place that I really wanted to explore. There are suggestions in the book, like, go to a dollar store with $5 to find the things that your inner child, your inner artist wants to make some kind of project. It's just something that is fun, but also a time that should be held sacred. I'm sure that when I read this again in the future, this part will become even more important because it is the part that I'm most likely to kind of want to skip over, but generally those are the things that you really need to visit, give your energy to. Now, there was one particular week of this book that was very challenging when what did she call it? Like a reading fast, where you're not reading anything else. And certainly in our modern day and age, it's not just books, it's saying like, don't read social media posts, don't read unnecessary emails, don't consume things, focus on creating your own work instead. And that, while it was excruciating, you're not even listening to music with lyrics, just sticking with instrumental, it has been very powerful both times that I've done it. I'm probably overdue to do it again. Definitely also feeling resistance to that because, YouTube is there. There's so many videos I want to watch. Why can't I just watch them instead? But that fasting, that getting quiet and listening to your own inner voice rather than always consuming other voices is absolutely very, very powerful. So I don't have the journal anymore from the first time I read this, or I had a separate journal where I was keeping track of, some of the special prompts in here. Like each week has prompts that you can choose from. You can do a few of them each week. So I don't have that anymore to revisit. When we moved to Turkey, a lot of things got purged, and certainly all of journals were one of the first to go because I was like, I don't want to look back at them. But what I do know is that there was a lot that came up for me. So I started writing poetry for the first time in my life while I was going through this journey. Bad poetry, let's be clear about that. And I don't know where those poems are, but I did start writing them. And also, by the end of the 12 weeks of this, I don't remember the timing exactly, but I know that I had picked up the manuscript again that was going to ultimately become this book. So at some point in there, something about this journey shifted things enough for me that I thought, I'm actually going to commit to it. I'm actually going to write that book. This is the book that changed everything for me too, because I think by the time I finished the first draft of this book, I had already realized that there were so many more ideas and there were so many more books that I wanted to write, and that this was not going to be a one-time just prove to myself that I can do it kind of thing. This was going to be something that I was going to commit to and, change my life around. So I'd started with The Artist's Way in January. By the end of July, I had finished the manuscript, the first draft of this, and I was doing that largely in 20-minute writing sprints. I was setting goals for myself and saying, okay, if I hit this specific marker, then I'm going to, the rewards I would give myself were often things like, I'm going to go on Book Outlet, the website, love Book Outlet, and do a little shopping spree. Or for part of it, I was staying with a relative near half-price books because we don't have one where I lived at the time. So, okay, if I hit this word count goal by the end of the week, then it's time for a little jaunt to half-price books. So a great way to motivate yourself to write words is the promise of being able to read more words. So, it's important that you're not in a media fast from the Artist's Way at that time, but if you love books, it's a great motivator. So another thing that is very cool to me about this book is, of course, there are lots of stories in it of people who are, getting unblocked because of their experience with morning pages and things like that. but in my own personal life, experiencing that myself, but then also sharing with my mom, because she started to read it when I did as well, that years prior, when I was in middle school, she had read the book, she had started writing morning pages, and it had ended up leading to a career change for her too. There was an inspiration that came up in the morning pages that was like, what if I take this class? And then that class turned into going back to school and starting an entirely new career, which she is still practicing to this day. So maybe it's genetic. I don't know. Maybe it runs in the family. Maybe I should give this book to other members of my family and see what happens to them. So at this point, I have read it twice. I think it's probably time to revisit. I've never done that in a group of people, so I think it would be really interesting to assemble a group at some point if that's something that people will be interested in. Let me know in the comments, and it would be so fun to read, to check in weekly, and just to say, like, how's the journey going? What are you liking? What's challenging? What are your suggestions or ideas you have for cool artist dates? That kind of stuff. So yeah, let me know, and I'll see you next time.